In part 1 of this series on Keoladeo National Park, I shared some of the photographs of the birds that I saw there, namely yellow-footed green pigeon, spotted owlet, the darter or snakebird, the great white pelican, Indian pond heron, fruit bat, flying fox, which belongs to the megabat series, the purple heron, the Ekanthwasi green heron, the yellow bittern, egrets and various types of egrets, the cormorants, and shared a story of how they were mourning a dead bird, the crested serpent eagle, the little grebe, the Eurasian eagle owl, common flameback, black-rumped flameback, yellow-crowned woodpecker, bronze-winged jacauna, pheasant-tailed jacauna, and the common kingfisher. In this second part, I will be showing some pictures and activities of some other birds that I sighted there. This is a river tern with a catch. In the background, one can see the snakebird swallowing a fish. The river tern is a slender bird about the size of a pigeon, with grey upper parts, black cap on the head, yellow beak, long pointed wings, a deeply forked tail, and short yellow stubby legs. Both the sexes look alike. It spends a great portion of its time fishing. It predominantly feeds on fish, small crustaceans, and insects, more likely to be sighted in flight than on the ground. This species has been uplisted to vulnerable on the basis that increasing human disturbance, dam construction, water body management, and predation are causing a rapid population decline. While the situation is more concerning in the Southeast Asia despite its marginal occurrence here, localized declines also continue to occur across India, of which currently holds the majority of the population. This is a Eurasian hoopie, utterly unmistakable orange bird with a zebra-striped wings, a Chinese fan of a crest, usually held closed but often raised just after landing, and a rapier of a bill. In what was long thought to be a defensive posture, hoopies sunbathe by spreading out their wings and tail low against the ground and tilting their head up. They often fold their wings and preen halfway through. They also enjoy taking dust and sunbaths. Hoopies are monogamous, although the pair bond apparently only lasts for a single season. They are also territorial. It is Israel's national bird. They are big fighters too, especially the boys. While fighting over property during the breeding season, usually between March and June, they will face each other, crests flared, bills first pointing downwards and then directly at each other, and begin jabbing. It can get dangerous, and they have been known to blind one another in such duels. The property the males fight over are usually a hollow, or a slit in a tree trunk, or a hole in a stone wall, which is what they called home. They will line this skimpily with grass, leaves, feathers, and rubbish, and the chosen one will settle down here to raise a family. The entrance is made even narrower, and throughout the incubation period, Madam's job entirely her partner will, rather in the manner of hornbills, feed her conscientiously. Both parents feed the babies. Their in-house hygiene is appalling. The lady of the house, alas, lets excreta, food, debris fester in her home, and it stinks the place out. Worse at this time, her preen gland, the uropineal gland, swells up and produces a thick brown goo that is extremely foul-smelling. This cuck she applies all over herself and to her eggs too. It keeps the predators. There are a couple of raptors that are partial to the hoopies at bay. But this evil-smelling stuff is good for her and her babies to be. It has substances which make her feathers flexible and waterproof. Also, it was recently discovered it plays host to a good bacterium. which is the natural predator of a bad bacterium, which is a keratin destroyer. The stuffed feathers are made of. The goo also gets through the pores of the eggs and provides a shield for the babies inside. But be warned, if you try funny stuff with whoopee babies, such as remove them from their nest, they will turn around and squirt you with face fully of highly stinky liquid feces, an experience you will never relish. This is a woolly-necked stork. The woolly-necked stork is a medium-sized stork. The iris is deep crimson or wine red. The stork is glistening black overall with a black skull cap, a downy white neck which gives it its name. They are attracted to fires in grassland and crop fields where they capture insects trying to escape the fire. The species was elevated from near threatened to vulnerable in 2014. It was, however, downlisted to near threatened in 2019. The status of woolly-necked storks is tied to Indian and Nepali farmers, an unusual situation in a world where agriculture has often been the villain of conservation stories. This is a Saras crane. The Saras crane is easily distinguished from other cranes in the region by its overall grey color and the contrasting red head and upper neck. They forage on marshes and shallow wetlands for roots, tubers, insects, crustaceans, and small vertebrate prey. Like other cranes, they form long-lasting pair bonds and maintain territories within which they perform territorial and courtship displays that include loud trumpeting, leaps, and dance-like movements. In India, they are considered symbols of marital fidelity, believed to mate for life and pine the loss of their mates, even to the point of starving to death. The Saras crane is classified as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. The species is venerated in India, and legend has it that the poet Valmiki cursed a hunter for killing a Saras crane and was then inspired to write the epic Ramayana. They are a symbol of marital virtue, and in parts of Gujarat, taking a newly wed couple to see a pair of Saras cranes is customary. The Indian state of Uttar Pradesh has declared the Saras crane as its official state bird. We saw a lovely family of Saras crane with the mother and father and the little one searching for food in the grasslands. This is the picture of glossy ibis. It is the most widespread ibis species. Though generally suspected to be a migratory species in India, the glossy ibis is a resident in western India. When not nesting, flocks of over 100 individuals may occur on migration. The young can leave the nest after about 7 days, but the parents continue to feed them for another 6 to 7 weeks. A glossy ibis was once rescued from PM's house due to heat exhaustion, and Wasim Akram, manager Wildlife SOS Special Projects, said, "At times like this, we must remain compassionate and consider the welfare of birds and animals that share our surroundings. We can do our bit by putting out earthen water bowls and food in our balconies, windowsills, outside residential complexes and shops, creating green cover by planting more trees and keeping potted plants also provide reprieve to these animals." The black of this bird gives a greenish sheen and shines when the sun rays fall on them. This is a picture of Griffon vulture or Himalayan vulture. These are massive tricolored vulture with whitish head and neck, pale brown body, and contrasting dark flight feathers. Juveniles are similar, but with a pale brown rather than white neck ruff. They nest in colonies on cliff ledges, often seen in loose flocks soaring over valleys and mountain sides, but always in search of updrafts and thermals. Still the commonest vulture over much of its breeding range. Some populations are resident while others are highly migratory. They feed on old carcasses, sometimes waiting a couple of days near a dead animal. IUCN list has listed the species as near threatened. One major threat to the species is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug known as diclofenac. Their population decline is generally caused by the consumption of caracas exposed to diclofenac. Found them near a caracas and they flew away and sat on nearby trees on seeing us. Like other vultures, the Himalayan Griffon vulture is considered one of the most dangerous birds in the Himalayas. Along with long wings and a strong head, these birds possess heavy claws and sharp bills. They also attack in small colonies, and the strike of these birds can cause severe damage to humans and animals. This is a picture of spotted eagle. The greater spotted eagle, occasionally called the spotted eagle, is a large bird of prey. Greater spotted eagles primarily live off small mammals, principally rodents, and quite often prefer those habituated to wetland habitat, frogs, and a variety of birds, often vulnerable water birds, with reptiles and insects taken more infrequently. The species is dimorphic or even polymorphic. As for pale morph, adults sometimes referred to as fulvescens, the plumage is rather bicolored, with the tail, flight, feathers, and greater wing coverts all still blackish, but the body and the rest of the wings coverts appear light rufous yellow or pale golden buff and can become creamy when born. The fairly buffy color of the fulvescens morph is contrasted usually with diffuse darker coloring around the eyes, on the leading edges of wings, and more rarely and sparsely about the chest. Greater spotted eagles are almost entirely migratory birds. However, it is not usually considered a long-distance migrant compared to the other birds of prey. This is a black kite. The black kite is a medium-sized bird of prey. Black kites are opportunistic hunters and are more likely to scavenge. They spend much time soaring and gliding in thermals in search of food. Their angled wing and distinctive forked tail make them easy to identify. They are also vociferous with a shrill whinnying call. Both the male and female take part in nesting, in nest building, incubation, and care of chicks. Siblings show aggression to each other, and often the weaker chick may be killed, but parent birds were found to preferentially feed the smaller chicks in experimentally altered nests. This is a black-winged kite. This was the first bird I sighted on entering Keoladeo National Park. Extreme cold weather and 9 a.m. in the morning, and it was sleeping but somehow got up and noticed us. It then tried to get its profile clicked from all angles and made sure that we got away before sleeping again. It has owl-like forward-facing eyes with red iris. They are thought to have been adapted for living in savanna habitats where seasonal rodent population peaks occur. Such food resources are also favored by owls. This is a long-tailed shrike. The long-tailed shrike or rufous-backed shrike has a long and narrow black tail, have a black mask and forehead, rufous rump and flanks, and a small white patch on the shoulder. This bird has a characteristic upright shrike attitude when perched on a bush, from which it glides down at an angle to take lizards, large insects, small birds, and rodents. Both parents incubate the eggs and feed the chicks. Their nests are sometimes parasitized by cuckoos, such as the common cuckoo, common hawk cuckoo, Jacoban cuckoo, and Asian quail in Bangladesh. This is Baybacked Shrike. It is a brightly colored, small shrike, reminiscent of long-tailed shrike in overall coloration. It too has a black mask, rufous flanks and back, clean white throat, and small size makes it distinctive within its range. It has a white patch on its wings, and it prefers open areas, often in dry regions with scattered vegetation. This is a plain Prinia or jungle Prinia. A common Prinia has a drab grey-brown plumage that varies in tone across its range. It has a pale white, wide eyebrow and the long tail that appears as if it is loosely attached to the body. Breeding birds have a black bill and a shorter tail. These are few pics of the bird. This is the Booted Warbler. It is a small, recalling a beige chiffchaff, rather nondescript, grey-brown above, paler below, with short, dark-tipped bill and conspicuous pale eyebrow, pot-bellied, with short wings and a square-tipped tail. This is a Black Drongo. One of the pictures shows a Drongo with no tail, and the guide explained that it must have lost it as a result of a fight with a predator. One of the pictures shows the Black Drongo hovering to catch a fish. The Black Drongo is a small Asian passerine bird of the Drongo family. The species is known for its aggressive behavior towards much larger birds, such as crows, never hesitating to dive bomb any bird of prey that invades its territory. This behavior earns it the informal name of king crow. Smaller birds often nest in the well-guarded vicinity of a nesting black drongo. They associate with common mynas, cattle egrets, and other birds that share a similar diet and habitat. Drongos benefit from this association and are more successful in their foraging. There is only partial overlap in the insect prey sought by mynas and drongos, although in rare instances the drongos may rob prey from the mynas. It is said that they imitate the call of the shikara so as to put mynas to flight, and then they steal the prey. How naughty! They are very aggressive that they may sometimes land on large birds of prey and peck them when mobbing. Play behavior has been observed with birds dropping a leaf in the air and catching it in midair, and these may possibly help young birds acquire aerobatic skills. This is a Rufus trepi. It is a trepi native to Indian subcontinent and adjoining parts of Southeast Asia. It is a member of crow family. It is long-tailed and has loud musical call, making it very conspicuous. It is found commonly in open scrub, agriculture areas, forests as well as urban gardens. Like other coverts, it is very adaptable, omnivorous, and opportunistic in feeding. They are well known to be a cleaning symbiont of deer, feeding on ectoparasites of sambar, which permit them to perch and position themselves to invite the bird to examine specific parts. They have strong organization and community building traits, partner and group bonds, which keeps them in groups and helps them join mixed hunting parties of birds. The local name for Rufus trepi is takachor. Literally translated, this means coin stealer. This name for trepi comes on the account of its habit, like many of other corvids, to seek out and steal shiny items such as coins, jewelry, and other similar objects. They collect these objects and often line them up in their nests, possibly to attract the female trepi. The next time any of you end up losing a shiny object, do make sure that a takachor is not hanging about near your home. This is the Indian golden oriole. It was a long wait to sight this bird. Sighted it on the last day, that is the 21st January 2022. After I spotted it, it did make me run about quite a bit to get a perfect shot as it tried to hide and get out of sight. Once located, it sat still for various profiles. The Indian golden oriole is a species of oriole found in the Indian subcontinent and Central Asia. Adults can be told apart from the Eurasian golden oriole by the black of the eye stripe extending behind the eye. This is the black-headed ibis, also known as the Oriental white ibis or the Indian white ibis, also known as black-necked ibis. It is a species of wading bird of the ibis family which breeds in the South and Southeast Asia from India to the west and as far east as Japan. It is the only native ibis species in its range that has an overall white plumage with a black neck and head. The down-curved beak and legs are also black. Though often referred to as a wetland species, the black-headed ibis forages in a range of natural and man-made habitats. This species of ibis nests only during the rainy season. Sexes are identical, but juveniles are identifiable from adults in having grayish feathers on the neck and speckled brown-gray feathering on the wings and back. Like storks and spoonbills, it lacks a true voice-producing mechanism and is silent except for ventriloquistic grunts uttered by pairs at the nest. This is the black-crowned night heron. It is a stocky heron which usually tucks in its neck. Adults overall are pale grayish with black cap and back and red eyes. Juveniles noticeably are different and have dull gray-brown plumage on their heads, wings, and backs with numerous pale tear-shaped spots. Their underparts are paler and streaked with brown. The young birds have orange eyes and duller yellowish green legs. Often crouched under the overhanging branches during the day, it feeds nocturnally for fish, frogs, and other prey. It has been observed to engage in bait fishing, where they lure or distract fish by tossing both edible and inedible floating objects into the water within their striking range. This is the Asian openbill. The Asian openbill or Asian openbill stork is a large wading bird in the stork family. This distinctive stork is found mainly in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. A relatively small stork species with a grayish to white body and black wings and tail with a hint of gloss. The Asian openbill gets its name from the distinctive gap in the dull grayish-yellow bill. Note the pinkish legs. Asian openbills inhabit wetland habitats including shallow marshes, flooded agriculture fields, and lakes. This is the Asian pied starling. This sharply attired black and white starling has a pointed yellow bill with an orange base. Note the bare, deep orange patch around its eye that contrasts with its white cheek. Seen in loose flocks close to the human habitation, feeding on human refuse, garbage dumps, damp grazing lands, and wet-watered parks are its favored haunts. Noisy with a variety of calls that includes mimicked sounds of other birds. The ability of these mynas to mimic human voices made them popular as cage birds. The Sema Nagas will not eat this bird as they believe it is the reincarnation of human. They are considered to be generally beneficial because they eat many insects. The Brahminy Starling. This fearless bird is cute and friendly. It sat on my camera and enjoyed having meal with me on the table in the canteen at Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary, along with the jungle babbler. In groups, they were all around feeding on whatever spilled over onto the ground and table as people stopped there to have their lunch. A small fawn-colored starling with a long wispy crest that usually lies limp over the back of its head, for the feathers on its cheek and upper breast stand up and away from its cheek. Its underparts are gray and the dark tail is tipped in white. Note the yellow bill with the blue base. Often seen in small family groups, feeding on fruits and nectar, as well as insects on the ground or in the trees. They have a wide repertoire of calls and are often given to mimicking other species. It is so called because this species fondness for perching on the buildings and temple pagodas in southern India. The male selects the nest, sometimes having to compete with other hole nesters, such as barbets and sparrows. The young are fed with insects in the early stages and grains in the later stages. After feeding, the parents wait for the young to eject fecal pellets, which they carefully remove and drop about 20 meters away from the nest. This is a black-necked stork, which is a tall, long-necked wading bird in the stork family. Adult birds of both sexes have a heavy bill and are patterned in white and iridescent blacks, but the sexes differ in the color of their iris, with females sporting yellow irises and males having dark-colored irises. It is one of the few storks that is strongly territorial when feeding and breeding. The Mir Shikars, traditional bird hunters of Bihar, India, had a ritual practice that required a young man to capture a black-necked stork, Lohasarang as they were called, alive before he could marry. A procession would locate a bird, and the bridegroom-to-be would try to catch the bird with a limed stick. The cornered bird was a ferocious adversary. The ritual was stopped in the 1920s after a young man was killed in the process. Young birds have been known to be taken from the nest for meat in Assam.